Today's cocktail is the Bramble. The Bramble is a gin-based cocktail consisting of gin, lemon juice, simple syrup, and blackberry liqueur. The Bramble was created by Dick Bradsell in 1980s London, England, and is best described as a spring cocktail. Once again, we have gin with fruit. I have always said that gin is far from my favorite liquor. And really that goes back to my early days with gin and juice and people not being able to mix drinks properly when I was early in my drinking career. But when mixed properly with the right flavor combinations, such as the blackberry liqueur and the lemon, the gin-based drinks can be actually quite refreshing. So I probably should stop saying that gin isn't my favorite liquor. It's just that drinking gin straight is not something I would ever do, unlike vodka, which I can drink straight, and whiskey, which I enjoy over the rocks. But gin, when mixed with the right ingredients, is wonderful, and the Bramble is a very nice cocktail. It's sweet, it's fruity, it's got a little herbal kick to it. It is a very good spring cocktail, I'd say, and you can garnish it with either fresh blackberries or a lemon slice, and pour it in an old-fashioned glass over the rocks, and it's wonderful. As always, drink responsibly, and if you are of age and have the opportunity, I highly recommend you try the Bramble. Hi folks, welcome back to Cocktails and Crankshafts. I'm your host, as always, the fat man, the big man, Big B, the killer bee, the Africanized honeybee. With me most of the time is my incredible co-host, May. Hey, May.
Howdy. It's me. I'm here.
What's good with you?
You know, hanging out, trying to enjoy this here weather. Now that it's starting to change seasons and things, but you know.
So am I to understand that you stole your name Mayflower from a actress?
I mean, I won't confirm nor deny that said adult actress has that name. I'm just saying you got to stay ready.
Right.
Economy going down, you know what I'm saying? The Dow is dropping. I might have to pick up a side hustle. Got to have a name that reflects the kind of work that I might need to be able to go to Atlanta and do maybe every other weekend. Maybe like the weekend right before mortgages due.
Stop it.
Just saying.
I know some Atlanta girls with aliases.
Hey, stay ready. You don't have to get ready.
Woo, okay, moving on. Let's talk about Goodwood Festival of Speed 2014, also known as planes, trains, and automobiles, and also some buses.
Woohoo!
This was my second trip to the Festival of Speed, hosted by His Grace, the Duke of Richmond, Lennox and Gordon, Charles Gordon Lennox.
That's quite the name.
It is. It's a little convoluted. His father is also Charles Gordon Lennox, I think. The current Duke only became the Duke in 2017. Prior to that, the first time I went, both times I went, he was Lord March, not Duke March. He was the Earl of March. And then he became the Duke of Richmond, assuming his father's title.
This is some royal family British stuff.
Yes, this is some high British nobility stuff because he's had several titles. When he was born as Lord Setrington, and then in 1989 he was invested as the Earl of March and Kenrara, and then in 2017 he was invested as the Duke of Richmond, Lennox and Gordon. Goodwood House is in West Sussex, England, that south and west-ish of London. The Goodwood Festival of Speed began in 1993. It's always in late June or early July, sometimes overlapping. Chosen to be in that part of the calendar so that it does not compete with Formula One or the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Thus, the race teams involved in those two events are available to come to the festival. It also helps that the British Formula One industry is centered just up the road a piece, and therefore many of those teams are available to bring cars and members down to the festival.
It's nice of them to be considerate of the calendar so that everyone can participate.
Well, it is a substantial moneymaker for the region, and like in the U.S., depressed economies need ways to make money, and tourism is a good way to do it.
True that.
And so there's a little bit more to it than that. The current Duke's father built the Goodwood racetrack. There is actually a racetrack on the grounds. It's actually across the street from the main estate. However, that racetrack got retired because it did not meet the safety standards of through the 60s and 70s as they were getting serious about not killing race car drivers every race. So they do some historic stuff there, but it is no longer an active commercial racetrack.
Sure.
But because of the family's connection to motorsports, the son thought it would be cool if they did something, and the festival was born. So 2014 was a celebration of Mercedes-Benz, and you can see the
that's quite
central
the interesting
feature.
Archway.
They do an installment for every festival.
Okay, that's cute.
And it's in front of, or in this case, arching over the house. The artists do different things with cars and arches, but it's always something large and spectacular and involving the brand or brands to be featured that year. But the 2012 with Lotus was quite a intricate. They had 6 or 7 cars up there. It was quite a thing. This is the house, of course, and as you can see, it's quite a manor. There's the stable area, and I guess that's a pool back there. I've never even been to that part back there because that's not open to the public during the festival. But you can see the main road coming up here, which is where the hill climb is held. Because that's the thing; it's not just a car festival; it's a freaking hill climb.
Ooh, I don't like running hills. I can't imagine driving hills is fun either.
No, it's lots of fun. I would love to enter a hill climb. Driving up a hill at a high rate of speed around corners goes back to the very heart, to the very earliest days of motorsport. Cross country rallies and hill climbs were some of the very first forms of motorsport. So we start down here at the bottom, and they race the car up the hill to the top, and there are crossovers for spectators. And then at certain intervals, they will open the actual course so you can walk across the course instead of having to climb over the bridges. They also have a rally stage up here in the woods where the rally cars can go bumping and jumping around. And sometimes further down, they have a dirt area where you can test drive dune buggies and stuff. Then down here at the bottom is sort of a manufacturer's midway, which is also like a carnival midway. They have, meat on sticks and things served in cones and ice cream and maybe not cotton candy, because I don't know if Europeans are big on cotton candy, but they have a lot of street food type stuff. First aid stations, swap meet kind of zone where you can buy bits and pieces of old race cars or t-shirts or hats or, fair stuff. I think there might be a Ferris wheel or something down there too. It's a cross between an English garden party, a car show, a race, and a festival, a fair.
So it's state fair meets bougie high tea meets racetrack afternoon.
Yes, because there are some what they call there are some areas that are open only to VIPs and people who pay exorbitant ticket prices. And those places have very fine dining, like quail's eggs and stuff like that. But, I tend to stick to stuff I recognize because, British food is not quite the same as American food. But
no.
They have hamburgers with cheese on them and, sausages and things like that. So I stick to the basics. You go in the morning, you get there, you get you a nice croissant with some... they call it bacon, but it's in our mind it would be more like ham.
Mm-hmm.
But you get a couple of fried eggs, a big chunk of white cheddar, and a slice of ham on a piece of bread. Hey, that works.
Yeah.
A couple of hamburgers, a Coke. I think there's beer. I don't recall it because I don't do beer, but I'm pretty sure they have beer.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
They certainly have bathroom trailers, fancy ones with running water. It's amazing. I was like, oh no, at the drag strip, you just pee in a trough.
Ooh. No porta potties at least?
It has, like Rockingham Dragway has a bathroom, but it is very much a stadium bathroom. So it's a stainless steel trough that runs the length of the wall that's got a steady drip of water in it. And then, of course, there are toilet stalls behind you, if you need to do that. But, that's why men can go to the bathroom so quickly, because we essentially are running an assembly line.
Why some men are so nasty.
You queue up, you unzip, you let fly, you rezip, you move on, you wash, you get out.
Okay.
We ain't like y'all where we got to stand in line all day because you got to unzip everything and unsnap stuff and, you know, perch up on the rim of the bowl. Yeah, I know y'all do that.
Hey, man, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta
Yeah.
get your mean squat
Yeah, I
on, or you gotta
understand.
squat on the toilet, or
I'm very happy
or
to
lay
be.
your wipes, or whatever.
I'm so very happy to be able to pee standing up. I can't tell you how much of a joy that is in life.
I'll take your word for it.
Moving
Moving
on.
on.
So the travel itinerary for Festival of Speed for me is it's a day. It's quite a day because this particular year I was living in northeast Iowa, so an hour plus drive from where I lived to the airport, 4 p.m. flight out of Iowa into Atlanta, 7 p.m. arrive. As you know, it's 2 hours plus the time change. So if you leave Iowa at 4, you get to Atlanta right around 7. 3 hours in the Atlanta airport, 10 p.m. departure for London, landing in London roughly noon the next day. So there it gets a little tricky because at Heathrow, I got to buy train tickets. I got to buy a bus transfer. I have to ride from one terminal to the other. Then I have to get on the national coach, which is like a Greyhound bus that takes me to the train station at Woking. At Woking, I get on the train and I ride down south until I get to the end. We'll show that in a minute here.
That's a long travel day.
Yes, that is a very long travel day. But the short version is you ride that red line from here, and then we ride all the way down to the end of the line. Literally, the train station is on piers in the harbor. And if you're cool, you get off at Portsmouth and Southsea, and you can take the hovercraft over to the Isle of Wight.
Ooh.
Which I did not do, but I should have, just so I could say I took a British hovercraft. Because I think that's one of the last routes that still uses it. I think the hovercraft that goes across the channel, I think they finally took that out of service. Because with the channel, there's just no need. So a lot of people always ask, well, why do you do Festival of Speed? Well, because
it's fun.
Even though it's a hard travel day, I'm used to European jet lag because I lived in Europe before and I've crossed the Atlantic a couple of times. So it is what it is. But because there's all kinds of cars there, it's like every kind of race car you ever wanted to see is there.
It's like CarCon or whatever. It's an experience.
Yes, it's an experience. It's an English-speaking country, sort of. They have every era and type of motorsports there. The tour group that I go with, the company that I use, is an American company that piggybacks off of a British tour. So we have an American-speaking guide, or an English-speaking guide, I'll say. But he knows that there are Americans and Canadians there, so he doesn't get too deep into the gobbledygook. And in fact, the last time I went, we had a couple of Canadians, a couple of Australians, a couple of Americans, and then we had some random folks from the Low Countries of Northern Europe. But this is the street racers.
Look at the mini
queuing up to go because their paddock is halfway up the hill, so that's one of the reasons why they have to stop the hill climb to let cars up and down, because the cars at the top have to come back down halfway. The cars in the garage have to go down to the bottom of the hill to get ready to come up. So this is the queuing area for the street and road race cars.
Okay.
So you've got a Ford Mondeo over there, which is probably was a British touring car. You've got what looks to be a Ford Capri of yesteryear. And as we wait a couple minutes here, we'll see some other hardware come up, probably. Yeah, it's a Chevy Cruze, which is probably a newer generation British touring car.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that is probably a Ford Escort, maybe? Or some sort of Alfa Romeo. Might be losing track. That's a big old Ford Galaxy.
Nothing huge.
BMW 635 CSL, maybe?
These are some interesting paintings on it.
Well, these cars are mostly in private hands and no longer have, say, their original sponsors from when they were still professional, when they were mainstream professional race cars, where they would probably be slathered with tobacco and or car part companies. Because who sponsors motor racing? Aside from NASCAR, where you have things like Tide and M&Ms, in most countries, your typical race car sponsors are going to be tobacco companies until those were outlawed, and then automotive related type companies. There's a big old Jaguar V12. That's a man's car right there. His engine weighs more than my whole 240SX. So, check this out. I just want you to listen, and then I'll explain what it is.
Okay.
That was spectacular.
Imagine that, see something wrong with it.
Okay.
That was a lot.
So we were up on the road, the dirt path between the rally stage and the top of the hill. Stop sharing that. Start sharing this. Okay. So what that was up here, where the hill climb ends. We were in the woods near the rally stage, and there's a dirt path next to the road that goes up. So all the cars get to the top of the hill by where the horse track and the stable are, and then they have to come back down here to the garage area, which is here.
Oh, okay.
So what we were hearing was all the Formula One cars coming back down past us, going back down to the garage area. And I had to just stop and listen to that incredible noise, because Formula One cars don't sound like that anymore. But that was all those, V12 and V10 and 13,000 RPM revving kind of engines making their way back down the hill. And it was just, it literally overwhelmed me. I won't say I almost came to tears, but I just had to pause for a moment and just listen to all that noise. It was incredible. As a kid that grew up as such a big fan of those kind of race cars.
See, I wouldn't have known what that was. It sounded like sirens.
Yes, that's what I told somebody once. It's like the sound of titanium being shredded on a time blender. Okay, so that's a Daytona prototype. That's an American racing car, and it's coming up the hill, and I'm sitting in the grandstand behind one of the TV cameras. And he's coming up the hill, and all of a sudden he loses it.
Oh no!
And I'm just shooting away with my camera, and I capture frame by frame him going into the hay bales right in front of the TV camera. It was the shot of my life. This was 20 minutes later when he pulled him out of the hay bales, and then they spent 20 minutes replacing the bale, putting new bales back in place. It was, this dude screwed up the works. We were down for about 45 minutes because of him. But I got a spectacular crash on my camera, and it was great.
That one exploding piece of hay looked fantastic.
Yes,
not gonna lie. It was
he wasn't hurt, so that was good.
Oh, good.
It was England, so I did sample some local food. So this is fish and chips that I got there on the grounds.
That doesn't look good.
It was not great.
That looks.
But I did have some better fish back at the area near my hotel. There was a bowling alley nearby, and I got some fish and chips there, and it was much, much better.
Okay, because that looks beautiful.
Okay, so this is a silk cut Jaguar. This is a Le Mans racing prototype. This is a start line down towards the bottom of the hill. So I just want you to experience what a start is like. All right, do you still get the video?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Now we got Andy Wallace on the grid in the 1988.
Thank you for watching Cocktails and Crankshafts. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit the bell icon, and we'll see you soon with new content.